Hey, it's James with Make It Happen Greenhouse, and I just want to take a moment to talk a little bit about the holistic approach we're taking to our little 1 acre of wonder here in Kansas, and just do a quick comparison. So here's my neighbor across the street, and he has a monoculture fescue lawn with 0 trees, and it's really easy to mow, but he hires a service to come out and they treat this yard pretty regular, both with herbicides and pesticides. He mows it himself and it looks like a baseball diamond, no doubt, and some people think that's beautiful. I think it looks like a barren desert. Maybe that's just me. Similar, the neighbor over here has some trees, but certainly the yard is monoculture for sure. I just want to take that and do a quick comparison. So we've been evolving our thinking on what a good, healthy yard really means. And so just, certainly we didn't have all the answers when we started this journey, but we thought a little bit about it as time went on. And after 12 years of living here, what we realized was we needed to do something a little different. It's a lot of work to get that baseball, field look with your yard. So the first thing we decided is we would put a few foundational trees in, and we have done that. So we planted this elm, which it's a lattice elm. It's a gorgeous tree, and we just love it. And then we've planted some other trees in here. A pear, which we slightly regret. Found out later that these pears tend to be, that they're an invasive species, and they have a lot of suckers that grow up, and you always have to constantly cut them. The good news is they're pretty, and they grow quickly, and they look nice and all that kind of stuff. They're prone to rust, which is a big problem here. You'll notice our neighbor over there with their yellow house has a lot of pine trees along the property line, and those propagate rust, and that is immediately impactful on these pear trees. The pear trees will turn, the leaves will get spots and turn red, and by the end of the season, you're just eager for them to all fall off and to reset for the next year. So again, if we had our druthers, we would not have done pear trees at the beginning. But all right, so the other thing you'll notice here is there's just a few little small trees that have popped up, and a lot of the trees you see in our yard, and I'll just pan over here to this side as well, are trees that just grew on their own. And our thinking is, if they're gonna survive in the harsh climate of Kansas, where we get 100+ temps for a month long in summer, and then wind chills of -50 in the winter, then hey, if you can grow here, then fantastic. So other than this maple that you see in the middle of my screen and that very small shrub next to the trash can, everything else in here has popped up on its own, including these pine trees. So basically, if I see a small little sprout come up and it's a tree, I will flag it and I will mow around it and see how it does. And we've had varying degrees of success. So we get a lot of these very fast growing cottonwoods. Cottonwoods just love it here. They're a little bit of a messy tree, but boy, do they provide a lot of shade. And you can just see, look at all these trees we've had. Now, our neighbors moved in a year after us, and compared the number of trees we have to what they have, 0. So other than the tree line behind them. The other big point I mentioned was the monoculture lawn. And so what we started doing, so we originally sodded this with a fescue mix, and had some good success with that for about 3 years. And then it really was becoming a chore to get the yard to stay healthy and green. And it just was being depleted. I think the soil here is heavy clay. It requires a lot of feeding to get it to grow. So about 3 years ago, we decided to try something different. We heard about a Clover Yard, and I've seen pictures of it successfully done, and I decided, you know what, we will introduce clover to our yard over the course of several years, and we've done that. Mostly white Dutch clover. Clover stores nitrogen in its roots, so it basically reinvigorates the soil versus depleting it. And as we've overseeded this, and I just mowed, so you can't see, and I'll show you a section where it's different, but the clover's taken off. So, and we've noticed that the fescue that was there prior, that's mixed in with the clover, is also doing better. So, and then the other thing we started to do was just be very careful and purposeful about how we're mowing, as well as the types of plants we're planting. So you can see up here on the side of the house, we have some beds that have been put in with some rock retaining walls. Those are flowers that are, you know, the bees can come get, and you know I love bees. We have different hanging plants. We have some native grasses planted. Again, here's a cottonwood that's grown on its own. But over here, let me show you. We've left some of the clover to just do its own thing. So you see that there are sprigs of tall fescue in there that is growing, but mostly this is the clover, and those white clover flowers will be primo harvesting area for our bees, which are way off in the distance there. But also they will turn brown and the heads will fall off and they will replenish themselves. So that's another good thing. Here you see this fenced in area for our pet pig, Mabel, our potbelly pig. And Mabel just loves it out here, but she's mostly an indoor pig, so she'll spend a little time out here and then want to go inside. Here we have some of these like pampas type grasses that you cut down over here and they grow right up. And then you'll see that, again, we've been very purposeful about how we mow the lawn here. We leave certain sections unmowed. The kids like to call those the nature preserves. And just let things happen. Now, I have infused some native grasses, some big blue stem, some Indian grass is what it's called, and I'm starting to see some of that pop up. So here's an example from last year. This is a piece of big blue stem, and it is tall grasses. Imagine coming to Kansas 200 years ago on a horse and you can't even be seen because the grass is so tall. That's the type of grass that used to grow in Kansas. So just fields and fields of it. So that's what we're trying to get back to here. So again, just trying to have a little bit of a symbiotic relationship with our environment. We have the bees, we have the greenhouse, just being careful about how we mow. We're not using chemicals anymore, with a rare exception. You can see back here we have a composter way in the back there behind the rose bush. We have another composter out there by the greenhouse to the left. You can see that. But so far, the experiment seems to be, working. Certainly sometimes it isn't, everything we expected. It takes a little longer and some patience, and you got to try different things. But overall, we're pretty happy with the way we're living out here in Kansas. And just to cap it all off, I'll show you our apple tree, which was one of the early additions to the yard. Actually, we planted this tree a year before this cottonwood, and I'll just kind of pan up here, and you can see this cottonwood is enormous, and this Macintosh apple tree kind of leans away from it because it wants nothing to do with that cottonwood. But we counted the apples this year, and we have just over 200 apples that are on this tree. So, wow. And they are delicious. So we look forward to those coming in. So again, just wanted to give you a little bit more of a picture of what's going on here with Make It Happen Greenhouse. It's not just the greenhouse. It's not just the bees. It's really trying to take a holistic approach to how we can be better stewards of our environment and leave it just in a slightly better place than we found it. So thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.